Hello, and welcome to the second episode of Gupshup. We're your hosts. I'm Alex.
And I'm Zuhair.
And in this podcast, we cover my journey as a former Catholic into marrying a Muslim man. We'll cover themes of relationships, family, and culture, as well as the joys and challenges of being in a mixed race relationship. And in our last episode, we left off with a surprise text message that I received from one of your family members. And it turned out to be your sister. She was inviting me to a family dinner in the Hunter Valley. And if you don't know the Hunter Valley, it is a region about 2 hours north of Sydney. So quite a while away. And the dinner was supposed to include some of her friends as well. So it was going to be quite a big sort of event. And your sister also invited my parents. I asked my parents if they could come. My mum was working, so she wasn't actually able to come. But I happily agreed, and I took leave on that day. It was during the week. So I took a day off work and we planned to come to the Hunter.
Well, you didn't actually drive at that point. So for you, I remember there was a bit of an issue with how you were going to get there if your parents couldn't go there. And as it turned out, you decided to take a train, which I think took double the amount of time as the drive. But that's kind of the option you took. And then...
Well, the only reason that we couldn't go together was because at the last minute you told me that you had booked a job in the South Coast, which is actually in the opposite direction, and you wouldn't be done until later that night. So you weren't actually able to come to the dinner, which was disappointing for me because I wanted you there.
You would have had to go by yourself to this formal, almost very formal family dinner in the Hunter, which is a pretty long drive. It's a 2 hour drive, I think 3 or 4 hour train trip. But yeah, I couldn't come that day. And then you had turned out that you wouldn't take a train there. I think you ended up going there with your parents ultimately.
Yeah, at the last minute, my parents agreed to drive me. And when we got there, we had a nice lunch together. And then I checked into a hotel and started getting ready. Because it was quite a formal event, I, packed a nice dress and a coat. And I got ready. And then there was an issue of actually getting to the place where the dinner was happening. Because there basically are no cabs in that area. It's quite rural. And the cab company that I'd called several times, because I kept checking to see how far away my cab was. And then after the third call, it turned out that they don't actually service that area. They just hadn't told me until that point. So
there's some great customer service on there.
Yeah.
Because when you book a cab, you have to tell them what suburb you're going to.
Yeah.
You would have already told them. They would have known that they didn't service that area from the beginning.
I don't even know what happened, but anyway. And then you ended up calling a cab for me from a different company. And then the cab finally showed up. I, took the 10-minute journey to the place, and it was actually a place where we'd stayed previously when we've been to the Hunter. It's really nice accommodation. And I saw you there.
Would have been a shock.
A bit confused. I did think the whole situation was a little fishy in the cab ride there. I was just a bit confused about how you had the time to call me a cab even though you were supposed to be doing this work thing. And also the fact that the venue had been moved from this other place to this accommodation where we'd stayed, because I just thought it was a bit weird that we were having these pre-dinner snacks at this other place. Anyway, and when I showed up, I saw you and it was just I was just confused. And you looked nice. You were in like
Once.
yeah. You were in like nice button up. And I was like, what are you doing here? And then, well, I got lost when I first got there because you told me the wrong direction to walk in. And then, anyway, you like led me to the room. And then I opened the door and then it was all like purple inside, purpley, bluey, like stars on the ceiling. And then music started and I just started crying immediately because I knew what was happening. And then we were just like hugging each other for a while. And then you were like, look at these things. And then I saw like some photos around the room of some nice moments of our relationship. I think one of them was like one of the first times I drove when you were teaching me how to drive, and my first parking job, and when we first got our kittens, when we brought them home, things like that. That was really special. And then there were also candles everywhere, by the way. And then you said, let's go outside. And in this accommodation, basically the backyard just leads out to vineyards and it's really pretty. It was just around sunset, possibly a bit after. It was starting to get a bit dark at that point because it took me so long to get there. I know I kind of ruined the timing on all your plans, but yeah, your friends were outside. And just for backstory, my favorite scene from The Office is Michael and Holly's proposal. Michael's proposal to Holly, where she walks down like this corridor of like the different characters from The Office and they ask her, will you marry me? And she says no. And then at the end it's Michael and then he says in Yoda voice,
marrying me will you be?
Yeah. Your bride. Wait, what did she say?
Your bride becoming will I be?
Yep. And then anyway, your friends were asking me, will you marry me? And I was like, no. And then you led me to like a love heart on the in rose petals, and in front of the vineyards. And then you gave your little speech.
Very little.
Oh, it wasn't that little. I mean, I don't know. It was supposed to be longer, but I mean, you got the point across. And you were a bit emotional as well. It was just an emotional time for everyone. And yeah, obviously I said yes.
You didn't even say what I asked.
You asked if I'd marry you. And I said yes. But yeah, that's the story. It was all a bit of a shock. I mean, I was definitely thinking something was off as I was going there, but then I didn't really expect, even though I knew we were talking about rings and everything, I didn't expect that. I actually did think it was family dinner and I was like, where's your family? And then it turned out you revealed that wasn't your sister at all. I was just texting you the whole time. You were catfishing me, basically.
Yes. Well, let's rewind back to when you first received that message from my sister asking you to go to that dinner. This was a plan that I had come up with probably a couple of weeks before, and I was kind of just working out when to action it in terms of dates. And as a side note, the weather during this month was terrible. This was in February and it was just raining like almost every second day in the Hunter at the time. So I was trying to find a date where the weather looked okay, and I just couldn't. I waited like 2 or 3 weeks and I couldn't, and then I just ended up choosing one. Anyway, so I had purchased another number and another SIM card. I had a plan where I would say that I was my sister, and at this point, you didn't have her number. So it was totally believable that I gave you a number, which I said was my sister's, and then you started texting her. And yeah, so I had told you that we were going to have a family dinner in the Hunter, and that was kind of my way to get you to come to the Hunter. Um, the Hunter is a beautiful place. It's especially during that time of the month. The weather is usually quite nice. It's not too hot. So it's a beautiful place, and that's kind of where I wanted to propose to you. But to get you there, which is very far from where we live, I had to have a really solid reason to get you there. So I had come up with a plan where I'd say we're having a family dinner, and then it'll be more believable if it wasn't coming from me. Although I had planted that seed, saying that my sister's thinking of having a dinner in the Hunter later on. And I told you that a couple of times before I sent you that text, and then so it wasn't completely out of the blue. Um, yeah, that was my plan to get you there. But then I guess I didn't think it through because you didn't drive, and I kind of figured your parents would just be like, "Yeah, let's go," and which they didn't. And during this time, I had also I was trying to organize a meeting with your parents so that I can discuss my intentions, and that proved to be a bit of a challenge because your brother lives in Japan and I have no direct contact with your parents. So I had to go through your brother to organize a meeting with your parents. Um, and that took quite a while to find a time that worked. And they were kind of just like, why do you want to talk to us? Like, are you sure you want to do this kind of thing? And it was a bit of a challenge to talk to them. Anyway, we organized a meeting and I met with them and we had that discussion where I asked them for their blessing and they were happy with it ultimately. Uh, they obviously had concerns, being uh, a mixed race relationship. They kind of didn't know exactly what the specifics were going to be and how it would all work out. Both your brother and your mum had concerns about what life would be like for you to get married to me and what the dynamics will be between our families as well as your relationship with my family, considering that you were Catholic and my family is very Muslim. So naturally, they had concerns. I had a lot of questions that I had to answer, um, which I think I did a reasonable job at because I felt like I satisfied their concerns at the time.
And how did you satisfy their concerns?
I mean, it wasn't surprising for me that they were asking those questions because the first time I spoke to your brother, he had already asked me a lot more questions than your mum had asked me later on. So I was kind of already prepared. But to me, I was just trying to answer as honestly as possible. I didn't really rehearse any answers, although it definitely would have been easier if I had. Um, I didn't really give it much thought, to be honest, like in terms of how I would answer them. I kind of just winged them. But for me, the main thing was just being honest and just giving answers that, maybe they didn't want to hear those answers exactly, but I think they appreciated the honesty in terms of like, I don't actually know how things will play out exactly, but I can tell you how I would react and how I would approach things. But in terms of my family, like I can have an influence, but I can't tell you exactly how things will be. I can tell you how I want them to be and how we'll work together to make that happen. But yeah, I was just trying to be as honest and as transparent as possible, which I think they probably appreciated. Like I wasn't trying to bullshit them and give them answers which weren't true. And some I raised my own concerns, like some of them where they were telling me about concerns they had. I was like, well, concern could be that, my family might not get along with your family as well. So we need flexibility on both sides. It's not like one side trying to get their way over the other. So we kind of have to make compromises on both sides. Anyway, long story short, all of that went well. We got to the Hunter. I had planned to get there a day before, so I had driven there the day before to check into the accommodation, and then kind of set everything up. And it was just crazy rain going on the night before, so I couldn't actually set up that much in terms of the outdoor stuff. I was kind of just pumping balloons, and I had this massive helium tank that I lugged all the way to the hunter. I was trying to figure out how to use it, and I wasted like a whole bunch of helium in the process.
Mm.
But I had boxes and boxes of stuff in terms of decorations and how I kind of envisioned it in my head, because as you mentioned, the whole theme was based on The Office when Michael proposes to Holly. But then I wanted to have a personal touch to it as well, where I incorporated parts of our relationship, some inside jokes and stuff like that. So for me, it was kind of trying to put it all together, and I had a vision for it, but I didn't know exactly how it was going to turn out. So I was kind of just winging things as I went, and I set it all up. I bought light projectors for the stars and on the ceiling. My friends helped me out a lot with like sound equipment, and in terms of setting up, they also arrived the day before. So shout out to Danny and Hubert and their partners for the immense help that they offered. Was very grateful for that. And yeah, so I had everything set up the day before, and then when the day came around, I woke up early. I had a whole bunch of things I wanted to do and get done before, because I had planned to propose around 7, which was sunset, and I was just kind of keeping my fingers crossed that the weather would hold up and it wouldn't rain, because the whole proposal was meant to be outdoors. Like it was like a beautiful vineyards, and at sunset the sun was like right behind the vineyard, so it looked really nice. And it just worked out perfectly. The weather, it didn't rain at all. There wasn't even that many clouds, so the sunset actually looked exactly how I wanted it to. So yeah, we set it all up. We had lights. We had this big love heart made out of rose petals, which again my friends did. I'm useless at that stuff. And then yeah, so at that point it was just waiting for you to come. And then when you thought I was working in the South Coast, I was actually just waiting in the Hunter. My friends had walkie-talkies. We were kind of all in position because one of my friends was going to take photos, and he was literally hiding in a bush with a telephoto lens. And we were kind of communicating on walkie-talkies, like, is she here yet? Because like you told me you're waiting in the lobby and you were just waiting for a cab. And it was only like a 5-10 minute drive from there. So we kind of just sat in our positions for quite a while, and then I was kind of just texting you back and forth. And it was difficult because I wasn't texting you as myself. I was texting you with my sister at times. So I had to kind of keep up this pretense that I'm my sister, and I had to type in a more formal way in a way that I thought she typed anyway. And then yeah, it was very, very stressful because it was starting to get dark and you still weren't there. And at one point I was like, stuff it, I'm just gonna drive and pick you up myself, and I'll just give it away. At least we'll have a proposal. But then luckily, yeah, we ended up sorting it out. The cab came. I gave you the wrong directions, and you walked all the way to the other side, and you walked all the way back, and then we met. And then, as you said, the story played out. I proposed, and luckily you said yes. And we had a fun night. We played board games and hung out with my friends. Destroyed a wall in the accommodation. Like I had put up this LED lights photo hanging thing. It was kind of just like LED clips where I hung photos off, and I stuck it on with what was supposed to be wall safe adhesives. And in the night when we tried taking them off, it ripped chunks out of the wall, which was a shock, and it was very sort of like, what do we do? We couldn't leave it like that because that would have been a massive expense. So anyway, we ran around that morning, went to Bunnings, patched up the wall, left that accommodation as in the best state that we could leave it in. And as it turned out,
we
left.
spent a really long time picking up rose petals and turning off LED candles.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there was 300. There was 300 candles that I had ordered. There was a lot of work. And as it ended up, we left our GoPro there without realizing.
Yeah, which was filming the proposal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it wasn't great footage, but it's something. Yeah, we left the GoPro without realizing, and we didn't realize for like 3 months or something after that.
We just couldn't find it.
We couldn't find it, but we didn't think that we left it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the proposal story. When we came back, you were kind of telling my family and your family So you want to talk about like how your family reacted when you told them? They kind of knew it was coming.
Yeah, they definitely knew it was coming, which was why I guess they decided to drive me there. Well, they must have known that's what was going to happen. But yeah, they were happy for us. Yeah, I guess it wasn't really a surprise to them because of that discussion you had with them. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, well, from my side, when I told my mum, she was kind of just like more relieved than anything and kind of just like, yes, it finally happened
Mhm.
now. When's the nikah date? When is the next step? Because for her, it was like, I think I appreciated that she kind of kept her mind open. Like she didn't believe in the whole engagement thing, but when I told her that was a big deal for you and for your family, for us to do things the right way, at least according to what Western society is like, um, I was appreciative of the fact that she had kept an open mind and she was patient in that she waited for me to propose and for us to get engaged
Mhm.
before she really started ramping up the pressure. Um, so yeah, when I got home, she was really happy for us. I think you showed her the ring the next day, and you really liked it.
Yep. Well,
Uh,
this is my ring. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, the result of many trips to different jewelry shops and we started looking into lab grown diamonds in particular when we found out how expensive natural diamonds are. Um, and we found out that they're basically the same thing, they're just a lot cheaper and same, composition and um, characteristics of a real diamond, real diamond.
yeah, well, it's the same composition. We did a lot of research, and we ended up, we decided on a lab grown diamond. But I guess when you got the ring, did you know it was a lab grown diamond straight away?
I knew, well, I was surprised at how big it was because I know we were talking about sort of smaller sizes before that. I think I must have known it was lab grown because we had agreed on that.
Yep.
Um,
So you didn't think I gave you a fake diamond
no, no, I would never think that.
because they're real.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so you're happy with the ring. This is literally the one that you had chosen. I just went to the store the next day and got it. Um, what happened afterwards was my mum really ramped up the pressure in terms of the nikah, which, again, for those of you that don't know, is the Muslim ceremony, Muslim marriage ceremony.
Mhm.
And yeah, she was really ramping up the pressure. She was kind of pushing me for a date. And things escalated really quickly after we got engaged. But that's a story for the next episode where we'll get into the nikah and kind of how that all played out. It ended up happening a lot quicker than we thought it would. So it was kind of a mad rush to get it all ready and everything. But we'll tell you all about that in the next episode. That's pretty much all we had for you in this episode. We really appreciate you guys joining us on this journey. Again, if you'd like to follow us, we release a new episode every Tuesday on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. And if you're enjoying this series, we would be really grateful if you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and share it with your friends. But that's all from us for today. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.